So pain points of traditional SEO. So I co-authored a book called SEO for Real Estate Agents in a Hurry. It's guaranteed to put you to sleep in the first 30 minutes so you could get off all those medications. QR code, if you want to go ahead and just download that right there, you can. There's also a URL at the very bottom. If you want to pause the video, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can pull that up. We give you the first chapter for free. But it's really just a playbook of how to beat Zillow and all the other big players at ground game and jump ahead of them organically.
Okay, well, it says that we are live on Facebook, as most of you know who have ever tried to do one of these. Just because it says it live, it doesn't mean it is. So I'm just going to talk for here for a second and get us through. But I feel like we're probably at least live now. So excited to be here today, and with a gentleman who I've done work with for the last couple of years in an area that I think is very, very important. So I'm going to introduce David here. But before I do that, just a couple of quick things. That number one, if you watch this and you're like, this was the greatest thing ever, and there's a real good possibility you're going to think that, then what we want to do is make sure that you get an opportunity to watch it again. So as with all LabCoat stuff, this will end up on the LabCoat YouTube channel for you to watch and go back. So obviously feel free to take notes, feel free to participate, but at the end of the day, if you miss something, no big deal, you'll be able to watch it again. And then also, if you have questions, comments, anything that we can answer, we'd love to give you all the information we have, but more importantly, we want to give you what's important to you. So please feel free to put questions in the chat, and we'll get those answered here live. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce David Tamm, who works with Cast Services. And what we're going to talk about today is SEO. So I'm just going to say that. David's a great guy, and he's good at it. And I'll just pass it over to you, David. So tell us about this.
I love it. Thanks for the intro, Brian. So LabCoatAgents, thanks again for having me. My name is David Tamm. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer and one of the co-founders of Cast Services. I'm going to share my screen right now so you can see my presentation. Let's just confirm you guys can see that. You can see this here? Awesome. Okay, so what we're going to talk about is the power of AI-driven SEO in the digital marketing space, right? These aren't just fancy words that we're wrapping around legacy topics. It's brand new technology, right? We're at this precipice in the marketing space where we can actually apply machine learning and artificial intelligence to the SEO and other digital marketing suites to drive better results to position you ahead of your competition. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Again, I'm going to echo what Brian said. Get in the chat box, ask questions, throw spears. All right, I want this to be a conversation, not just some guy in a green sweater talking to you. Cool? All right, let's pivot. So probably didn't know this, but over half of all web traffic comes from organic search. If you're not investing in SEO, that's over half of your potential business that you're flushing down the toilet and giving to your competition. All right. I would highly recommend you take a look just at some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. Also, you can check out our website, cast.services. That's it. And we'll preview some of that at the end of the webinar as well. Okay. Us. Who are we? Cast Services. We're one of the fastest growing digital marketing services firms in the country. We're now just over 370 markets and growing. We're a thought pioneer in the digital marketing real estate space. So we started one of the largest real estate CRMs out there. We've got a couple of people on our team ran the largest real estate company in Colorado. So we've got a lot of experience in that space. We also publish a lot of doctoral level research with our data science PhDs. We leverage AI, machine learning, and never before seen technology. And we're working on some patents in those spaces as well. We also do high-end custom websites. I think we did one for you, Brian, right?
Absolutely. I think there's a chance we might get an opportunity to look at it today, David.
Yeah, totally. I just ran a speed test on it this morning, and you're doing extremely well. So we're happy with that. Also, I'm going to make a little bit of a plug. We have this thing called a web audit. It's a 25-page PDF product that we provide for you. We normally charge $1,500. We're going to give away 10 of those for free at the very end of this webinar. First come, first serve, okay? And we'll do that with a link that I provide, or you can just hammer out a comment in the Facebook page in LCA, okay? A little bit about me. Don't really like talking about myself. Used to fly on some planes. I was a co-founder of FirePoint, like I said, did some time at Google, written a book on SEO. So I'm just a giant nerd, also an MLS architect. I love to train people how to program in that space, and did some time in the Air Force. Cool. Skipping it. That's my most uncomfortable slide. So when I talk about digital marketing, let's slow down here for a second, because a lot of people think, oh, digital marketing, you do PPC. Sure, that's one of the very small segments of the digital marketing omni-channel approach, which is what we use at Cast Services. Okay, and so when we talk about digital marketing, we're talking about digital radio and connected TV. right? Not just AM, FM, not just blasting out, white noise, hoping you get a lead, extremely targeted digital radio connected TV, video and banner ads using AI and non-AI, AI-driven SEO, literally code that can build out content for you, that can build out backlink infrastructure, right? At scale. We'll talk more about that. Site-fed geofencing, yes, PPC, also Facebook, and then SM boosting, and then we'll talk about some email tempo stuff where you can actually data layer with proprietary lists. So any questions on this, Brian, before we keep moving?
Yeah. So what I actually just want to point something out. There might be some of you who are looking at this and going, I have no idea what David just said. When we start talking about what's the difference between digitally connected radio and TV versus analog TV, what does all this stuff mean? So let me say this. First of all, he's going to cover these topics and how they apply, but understand that this is not something that you need to be an expert at. Here's what I mean by that. You need to figure out where the hole is in your business, and you guys will do consultations with him, but you don't have to understand how to do a satellite feed geofencing. That's not the point of this. So for all of you who just went, oh my God, I think David just blew me away and I'm just going to shut off now. Keep in mind, this is what they do. Think about the result. Don't necessarily think about the process. And that's why we hire good people to help us with process. So.
I'm so glad you said that, Brian. Yes. Think of these as 8 different arrows that you can fire out of your quiver, all of them that operate synergistically. You don't have to do all of them. You could just do some of them, right? But they're at least on the map. So what we do is we leave your competition in digital dust. So organic, if you don't know the difference between organic and paid versus referral and all that other stuff, all I'm saying when I say organic traffic is people found you on their own search behavior in Google or Bing or Yahoo or wherever, whatever search engine, but primarily it's 95% of our effort we push to Google. And so we find that, and the research shows that organic traffic renders a higher quality of lead compared to most other paid lead sources. So if we think about this intuitively, okay, somebody found me on their own search behavior, looking to sell their home for the most money, or top rated real estate agent in XYZ geographic region. They come to your website, it loads fast. You've got an amazing value proposition, a lead form, they register there, trust you with their personal information, and they're waiting for help, right? That compared to, I click on a paid advertisement to push them to some squeeze page with kind of a janky user experience and then hope that somebody calls me. Those are 2 completely different customer journeys. And so on our research, and we've done a doctoral level white paper on this exact subject, is that organic traffic converts at a higher level from lead to transaction.
And let's just talk about that. So higher, that's great. Is that 1% higher? Is it 5% higher? 10% higher? I know you're a numbers guy, David, so I might not be on your slide, but ballpark for me the difference between the conversion rate of a PPC lead and the conversion rate of an SEO organic lead, regardless of what they're looking to do.
Yeah, so the last numbers that we found, we studied 30 different markets across 15,000 data points with 30 different teams, right? All the way from single agent to mega brokerage. And we found that organic converts about 460% better.
Just 460%. Okay. So, when you guys look at SEO, I'll full disclosure, and David and I talked about this a couple of years ago. When I thought about SEO, I was like, that's great, but now I'm going to spend all this money and I'm not going to see a return right away. And you may not see a return right away, but let's talk about, long-term. So you need to have long-term plays and short-term plays in your business. To me, SEO is a long-term play. And so, that's where I'm at. And I don't know how you feel about that, David, but that's kind of where I fall on the SEO world.
Yeah. For us, it's when we look at SEO, it's don't think legacy SEO or I'm paying some person, they're going to just make some random blogs that are being written overseas and then brought into my website and jankily connected. Like that's legacy SEO. The SEO that we're doing today is we're making daily iterations and improvements, building massive amounts of link structure, directory structure. We're building power pages behind the scenes. We're updating your content. And so for us, we typically see the needle move in the first 60 days as far as massive rank increases. And then I'm going to have a couple of slides here. We have clients that are starting to see an ROI in the first 90 days. We've got a gentleman who's closed 26 transactions in 6 months, directly attributed to organic and SEO, so long as you've got a good destination to point that SEO to, if that makes sense, i.e. not a super antiquated, slow site that doesn't even have a phone number on it, right? Because they're going to be coming to you organically, right? And so we need to have a storefront that represents the digital marketing that we're paying for.
Awesome. So, I agree.
Cool. Thank you. So pain points of traditional SEO. So I co-authored a book called SEO for Real Estate Agents in a Hurry. It's guaranteed to put you to sleep in the first 30 minutes, so you could get off all those medications. QR code, if you want to go ahead and just download that right there, you can. There's also a URL at the very bottom. If you want to pause the video, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can pull that up. We give you the first chapter for free, but it's really just a playbook of how to beat Zillow and all the other big players at ground game and jump ahead of them organically. Totally possible, okay? And so some of the pain points that we find with what I call legacy SEO, the traditional SEO that you're used to hearing about, is quality of content, right? Is the content that's going on your site is not written in a native tongue with nuance that has tactical geographic expertise like you have in the Colorado market and the Arkansas market, Brian, right? It's gotta have that. Reporting and not using the right tools, right? So not adding new technology and tools to your suite on a monthly basis, which is what's required to keep pace and exceed industry standards in the SEO space. Transparency, like you just don't know what you're getting a lot of the times. So for us, when you're doing SEO, we have a call, we walk you through the results themselves, and we actually give you a link where you can log in anytime, 3 in the morning, and see, these are all the keywords that are working on, this is where I'm ranking, this is the improvement in my traffic, this is the number of leads I'm getting, so that you understand where every penny is going, right? Lack of real support. We hired a guy named Derek. He's on this webinar right now specifically for this purpose, so that when you start SEO, you get that white glove personal care. You have one throat to choke, his, right? If you don't know what's going on. But really the major button is lack of true rapid customizations. I love technology because it allows us to pivot quickly. It allows us to, when a Google algorithm shift happens, we're already ahead of the curve because we know what's gonna happen. Okay, so any questions on that, Brian?
I do. So you said something that I think is very important. So, in 2007, I learned about SEO, and I'm not exaggerating, that's a true story. But what I know from 2007, I don't know how much of it is irrelevant, but I'm going to guess about 90% of it's irrelevant today. So talk to me about how often Google changes their algorithm and how important it is to have someone who can pay attention to that and change.
Oh, absolutely. So, and my camera just shut itself off, but I'm going to keep talking. So there are micro adjustments to the algorithm often on a monthly basis, right? So we just had the Core Web Vitals update drop that said your LCP has to be 2.5 seconds or faster. We knew that was coming.
So you need to dumb it down a little bit for me, David. I don't know what an LCP is.
Your largest contentful pain. It's one of the metrics of how fast your site loads. So your site, right? So Brian, we've got you at searchnwa.com. You're currently running an LCP of like 1.5 seconds to 0.9 seconds. Well within the speed threshold. Now, Google's updating those algorithms, though, oftentimes every single year with major updates, which is why if your SEO provider doesn't have a clear understanding of where the new benchmark is, then your SEO program, you're essentially just pissing money away, for lack of a better term. So we have to be able to make those adjustments quickly and effectively and be able to measure the results. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. I think all too often we miss that opportunity. The opportunity is, again, I'm really good at selling real estate. I do not have 20 hours a week to sit in front of my computer and go over this stuff, but it needs to happen. So, that's why I've hired you guys, to be honest. And it sounds like I'm just, punching this, but the reality is you need to have somebody do this for you. You don't have enough hours in the day if you're a productive agent out there and, because I don't know how long it takes to learn all about SEO, but my guess is that it's too much time for me. And also the worst part about it is as soon as I learn it all, Google's going to change it next month anyway. So I think it's an important thing to understand. Why did what I did 6 months ago no longer work? Well, because the algorithm changed.
You're absolutely right. And that's the frustrating life of an SEO tactician, right? Is you just have to constantly be taking pies in the face. But it's a really good thing because somebody's got to do it, because that's where it's really interesting, Brian, with organic traffic. If it doesn't come to you, somebody's not just going to throw up their hands and say, well, I couldn't find Brian Curtis to sell my home. I guess I'm not going to sell my home today or this month or this year. They're going to go directly to your competition. Somebody's capturing that traffic. It might as well be you. So we need to honor the threat. If that makes sense. Okay. So let's talk about the actual core components of the current algorithm. Now, this has changed a little bit with the Core Web Vitals update, but it's really interesting to notice when you look at this graph, over 40% has to actually do with the infrastructure and site performance, as well as the off-site links and social. Okay, this is a big change from, let's say, back in 2007 when it was super content heavy. How many blogs do you have on your site, right? Guess what? If your blogs are not getting read interacted with and shared, you're not getting maximum value from them. It's just window dressing, guys. So that's where you need linking structure, directory structure. You need, guest blogging on other sites. You've got to have on-page optimization, and you've got to have all these other pieces in order to be effective in today's market on a really fast site that has a good user experience. That's the winning recipe. Okay, and that's why I showed you this, because we actually understand what key components are required to perform well organically in today's marketplace. Okay, so a solution bred out of necessity. We actually built this for ourselves because we said, listen, we have our own internal SEO department. We've got a lot of great key players and strategists, and we started to build new technology with machine learning, artificial intelligence, and bringing other partners into the space to say, how can we take a lot of those manual actions, right? Let's say writing a 500-word blog, and apply AI so that I can rewrite a blog in 30 to 90 seconds, so much so that Google can't recognize it as the original content, and then put that through a content writer, and then double that with some scripting to build a couple hundred backlinks that provide massive quality. And we can do all of that in a 30-minute session, right? Where a normal human man hours would require hundreds and hundreds of hours for what you're getting every single month with our solution, because a lot of it's automated using AI. Okay, not just the tools themselves, but the optimization and analytics tools so that we can see the proof in the pudding. We literally have a tool that says, this is exactly how many words you need. This is exactly how many links you need in order to gain rank 1, page 1 for these terms. Click of a button. It's fantastic. Okay, so, and that's what we're offering to the marketplace today. So what I'm going to show you is a couple of case studies here. So you're familiar with AirCatch, Brian?
Oh yeah, I know Eric very well.
Yeah. So when we started talking with him, I'm sure he'll be okay with me saying this. He did not have a great website, right? He built this business that had far surpassed the quality of the website itself, right? So he's driving around in this 97 Honda Civic and doing 1,000 transactions, a year. And so what we had to do is rebuild everything to give it a modern feel. And what we did then is plug in AI-driven SEO to that. And you've got the little screenshot here down below. They closed 0 in 2019, and he's the first 6 months of doing this on a custom site, got 26 transactions, net new. It's a pretty good ROI, proof in the pudding, right? Now you'll notice kind of in the background, strong value proposition above the fold. This thing loads super fast. We've got a clickable phone number above the fold. Those are also things that I'm going to kind of open up the playbook to show you that your website should have based off of our research. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I kind of want to point something out. So here's the difference between continuing to buy leads. And again, I'm an and guy, so I continue to buy leads and I do SEO. But if you notice the little comment that Eric said, he went from 0 to 25 in 2 years. But here's the great thing about SEO versus PPC. And again, I'm a proponent of PPC as well. At the end of the day, I'm always going to have to do PPC. I'm going to have to do it over and over and over again. And it doesn't build on itself. I mean, you can get past clients and referrals from it. I'm not saying that, but it doesn't gain momentum in and of itself, where SEO gains momentum. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say a year from now, when we do another webinar on this, you'll see Eric's comment that we went from 25 deals in 2021 to 62 deals in 2022 to 85 deals. And I'm making up numbers, but it goes on time. So for those of you who are reluctant, and I was, for years, I fought doing SEO. If you're reluctant to SEO, think about this. What's going to happen when you can't buy Zillow leads anymore? What's going to happen when you can't buy realtor.com leads anymore? What's going to happen if something changes with PPC? At the end of the day, this is about building your business and your brand long-term. And I think that's super important for people to think about, whether you're an individual agent or a team. If there's nothing better than getting a lead in your inbox that says, hey, by the way, I'm interested in working with you, versus a lead in your inbox that you got to call and they say, who is this and why are you calling me, and calls you all kinds of names. So just consider how you want your business to be, and do you have a long-term strategy? And in my opinion, it should include some sort of SEO.
I'm so glad you say that, right? And I always position it as it's an investment strategy that grows over time. And what a lot of people don't understand is, like, your website is a line item on your financials. Like, the amount of organic traffic and leads that your website generates has a direct ROI correlation that is an asset, right? Like, and so for what we see is, whenever something wonky happens in the economy, there's massive volatility in the paid lead space. I mean, I've seen 300% CPL swings on Facebook and Google when events happen and buyer lead traffic goes way up in cost or seller lead traffic goes way up in cost. That's something that I can't necessarily count on every single day, all of the time. So I want to diversify my portfolio from a lead generation perspective and plug in SEO when appropriate. So I've got that evergreen source of leads over time that also typically convert way higher than any paid lead source over time.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Great. So let's talk about the actual results. So I nabbed some of his analytics. And so what we saw is he was normally getting, 100, 200, 300 per month organic visits. And we've jumped that up to 2,500, 2.2K in a 30-day period. And this is increasing now. And I was actually just on a phone call with him this morning, their new marketing person, Alex. So that's really good to see, but what does it actually do? Like SEO lets you be more flexible with your lead sources. Also lets you supplement and be more flexible with your lead spend. If I know that I'm going to be getting 5 to 10 quality organic leads per month, and I can turn those into a transaction, let's say, 25% of those into a transactions every 30 days on a rolling period, that pond is continuing to grow over time, right? And so you can eventually, I like to tip the scales away from paid leads for most of our clients, but a lot of times that's not a possibility while SEO is gaining traction, okay? This is my favorite. It puts pressure on your competition. It pushes them off of the page, so it helps you with recruiting. It helps you set appointments and win deals, right? If you're sitting at the closing table, or you're sitting to try and win an appointment for a new $1 million listing, you can say, well, there's a reason we rank for #1 for all of these terms. Just Google them right now, okay? And it provides an entirely new growth channel that most people are not investing in right now. And Brian, I was reading on the NAR website, last week, and they said they expect 1/3 of all real estate professionals to be out of business in the next 24 months. Have you heard the same thing? Is that?
It doesn't surprise me. I'll be honest. I hadn't read that. I hadn't studied, but it doesn't surprise me because here's the thing. A lot of people, if you've been in the industry for less than 5 years, I'm going to say something you may not like. It has nothing to do with SEO. The last 5 years have been the easiest 5 years of real estate that I've seen in the last 25 years. So why am I telling you that? Not to scare you, but to understand that this is not a realistic, this extreme seller's market. I know it's probably swung too far to the seller's market, but for years, basically, it was super, super, super easy. And we're all happy about that, and it's great. But I think when things start to slow down, you're going to start to see the people who have a plan, the people who are organized. Those are the people who are going to succeed. And the people who have just been winging it, as we see a lot of different things happening, commission compression, you see the big people taking over your Zillows, your Redfins, your Open Doors. All of these people are now in competition that didn't used to exist. And we're going to have to be better. And for the people who aren't better, they're going to go be in a different industry. And I'm not sure who those people are specifically, but I'm 100% sure what I just said, it's going to happen as the market shifts.
You're absolutely correct. And the data doesn't lie, right? That's so as we look at SEO as a potential solution for the AI-driven SEO, you asked, how fast you see results, essentially. And what we saw for Eric Hatch, who we just talked about, you saw the increase in his traffic, you saw the new transactions. These are the raw keywords where we looked at 4 September and 12 September. This is an 8-day period. He jumped 708 rank spots across this entire set of keywords. What I mean by that is top real estate agent Grand Forks, he was on page 10. 8 days later, he's on page 2. Okay, so this is entirely possible leveraging artificial intelligence in the SEO space. And then we weave in super high traffic terms like Realtor Fargo that we're going to defend to ensure as we are progressing massive rank increases for other keywords, we maintain those page 1 rank 1 spots. And his traffic is still increasing today. So Andrea Elliott, you were in the Q&A in a chat and you said, I'd like to see an example of a real estate agency that you've helped. This is proof. And then we've got a couple of others that I'm going to show you actually in the next 2 slides. Okay, so type in some more questions if you have them.
Yeah, and let me just say this. If you want to do this for yourself, Google real estate agent Fargo, North Dakota. That's where Eric Hatch is at. And when you do that, and I didn't know, I just did that literally a second ago, and it looks like Yelp and Zillow and Realtor.com are ahead of them. Go figure. But Eric is literally on the first page for real estate agent Fargo, North Dakota. I'm sure that every single person who's watching this would love to be on the first page of Google for real estate agent location X. I know that I would like to. I'm moving up, and it's taken time because, by the way, that didn't happen on day one. And, but ultimately, yeah, Eric's on the first page. And, so this isn't just one of those things David created a slide. You can Google it yourself. It'll pop up and it's right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for saying that, right? And results vary depending on, how competitive your market is or not competitive your market is, what your budget is. We gotta determine, those X factors in there as well. But this is essentially him just saying, hey guys, made a bunch of money in the last 6 months. I've made 70 gross, 35 net. So those are pretty good numbers for 6 months ROI. Okay. We also have the ability to beat billion-dollar players on a regular basis, right? So was our client Zillow? Okay. So when you look for things like luxury homes, Albuquerque, or wherever our other clients are, we're growing really, really fast. So we are, full transparency, going to limit the number of seats that we have, because I am not going to take on 15 clients in one market and poach all the traffic and pocket money, right? So Cast Services isn't on the first page of Real Results when Googling SEO service. Why not? Because we deal with all referral. Okay. We don't market ourselves in that capacity. We do everything through word of mouth and webinars. And that's an excellent question. Okay. But it says Tristan's going to answer that one live.
He just did.
Love it. Love it. So AI-driven SEO, the program solution cycle, this is essentially opening up the playbook and showing you exactly what we do. So we've got to have a thorough onboarding interview process to figure out what is your business, what kind of leads, how big you want to be, what are your 5-year, 2-year, and 1-year goals. And then from there, we determine the best solution to fit your needs. Sometimes it's not SEO. Sometimes you already have massive organic traffic and you just got a broken website, right? So we just need to fix that. Other times it's, I'm paying for a bunch of paid leads, but I'm not converting them at the level I need to. So we need to take a look at your actual lead follow-up process before we'll turn on SEO with you, right? To make sure that we're not just flushing money down the toilet. And that's really important to understand, that we perform deep AI-driven research to build a custom solution that is bespoke for every user. Brian's SEO program looks completely different than Tristan's SEO program, okay? And that's on purpose. Nothing's boilerplate, nothing's copy-paste, okay? Let's talk websites. I didn't even ask permission to share this. So this is Tristan's brand new site. Tristan, you can punch me later. So we wanted to just show you what right looks like. A sample of a website that has high-level design language with a clickable lumber that runs really, really fast and is customizable. And I just wanted to ask you a question. Are you stuck in 1995 or back in 2007 when you learned about SEO, Brian? Or do you have something that is modern that represents your real estate business as your storefront? And if not, we're more than happy to do a free web audit for you. We're giving 10 of those away for free and show you where you need to go to convert at a higher level, i.e. organic traffic to leads. Does that all make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Beautiful. I'm going to turn my video back on. It keeps clicking on and off, so I apologize for that. The squeeze for the low-hanging fruit. So we've talked about this before in past webinars, but guys, your site has to run extremely fast. It has to be visually appealing, and it's got to have certain conversion elements to convert traffic from organic to lead at a high level. And what I mean by high level is anywhere from 0.5 to 2.5% of organic traffic to actual lead, name, email, and phone number. That's industry standard. Now, we do have sites that convert at 8% because they're purpose-built just for that, but you need to ask yourself, where am I? Okay, so if you have questions about your actual site performance, please reach out to us and we're more than happy to just point you in a direction, give you a little bit of help for free, or if it's a good fit to work together, great, okay? But there's no strings attached there. We really just want to push the industry forward.
Hey, okay. Dave, there's a couple of questions, and I know that one of them is going to be challenging to answer, but I know you'll answer it the best you can. So how long would it normally take to get someone to page 1, somebody asked. So yeah. I would just love you to cover in generality, because it's not going to be 33 days. It's not going to be that precise as a general question, but go ahead and answer that.
Yeah, so it depends on the term, right? So are we going top realtor, top rated, or sell home fast, or are we just going for Denver real estate? So the term itself matters, okay? Also, the website itself matters. How fast is your site, your user experience once they get there? Because that's graded. It's a big portion of your SEO, like we saw in that giant donut. So if you don't have a good quality site that runs fast and has all of the conversion elements necessary, you may not ever get to page 1. That's part of our job of working with you, saying, oh, wait, we've got to have more content. We've got to speed the site up before we turn on the gasoline to drive that SEO fire, okay? I have seen it as less than 30 days. For seller-focused terms on page 1, I've seen rank 1 page 1 as fast as 30 days. I've also seen clients where they're in a hyper-competitive market is busting at the seams, where we're on page 2 after about 120 days, but we're getting leads from page 2. See, a lot of people, like, because I went to a conference one day and listened to somebody that said page 1 is the only place you generate leads. That is just not true. You get leads from page 2 all the time. We do from our websites, because people are spending more time behind a screen and they're vetting you more. And research shows if somebody's going to register on one website to buy or sell a home, they're going to register on 4 to 6 others in a 30-day period. You're not special. So you have to get to page 1, if that makes sense. So that's the answer to the one question. What's the other one?
Somebody wanted to see the cargo agent keywords. I think you had those up. You want to just flash back to those real quick?
Oh yeah, and these are old. So we've revamped a bunch of these keywords. A lot of these have moved. That's the thing. It's an ongoing evolutionary process. You do not just choose a giant set of keywords and then run that for 3.5 years straight. Like, that's one of the worst things you can do. You need to constantly be retooling and adding words based off of where the market's going, and it's a moving target. Okay,
Absolutely.
It's really important.
So here's a great question, and this is something I don't think I necessarily thought about, and there's a reason. And David's actually going to show my website in a bit as a speed comparison, but I didn't think about this. So I want you guys to think about this. When you go on your phone, first of all, your phone is slower. Maybe not with 5G. I don't have a 5G phone, but your phone is slower. So whatever experience you're having on a computer, think it's 2 to 3 times slower on your phone. So how many people have done this? I'm going to go to a website on my phone. You see the little spinny thing. It says, I'm loading, and you punch. So this is the question, is being mobile friendly fast enough? And with that thought in mind, David, how do you describe that?
Well, what you need to first do is evaluate your own website, right? So you can go to GT Metrics or Google Developer Tools. I can drop those into the chat box here if you would like. And just go test your own site. And if you don't have an A through a C, typically we like to see A or B on both of those, and then an LCP, a large contentful paint of 2.5 seconds or faster, you need to work on your site. And I hate to say it, I'm not slinging mud, but a lot of the canned site solutions out there are never going to be fast enough to run high-level SEO. So you've got to have some sort of workaround or a custom site, or you need to do some work on the canned site you've got. Right? And what we found, Brian, is having a seller focus on the landing page rather than just browse homes in, search MLS in, converts way better. And the reason for that is we did a bunch of consumer behavior research in another one of our doctoral white papers. And what we found is when people are going to purchase a home, when they're just looking to browse homes, they don't care about you. They've been conditioned to go to Trulia, Redfin, Zillow, Realtor.com, all the billion-dollar players, right? And so when they're looking to sell their home, they are trying to look for you, but they can't find you because all you're giving them is browse MLS in, search for homes in, with nothing to do with seller above the fold. And so you're not getting indexed for those keywords. And Zillow's loving it. They're just grabbing all that up and then selling it back to you for 35%, sticking their finger in the dominoes. It's brilliant. Like, hats off to them, right? Awesome. So test your own site, right? Okay.
I'll answer I don't know the answers, but we're just going to do questions as we go along. Do you recommend that we have, as a real estate agent, you have more than one site?
It depends. So it always depends, and you're going to get sick of me saying that, but it depends on the size of business and what you're trying to accomplish, as well as the type of traffic you're piping into each. So a lot of times what we find is, hey, somebody's got a canned CRM site that doesn't perform super well from a speed perspective, but they're pumping a ton of PPC into it. That's usually like the lowest level. Okay, I've got enough leads to feed myself. Then usually there's like a custom seller focused site or a recruiting site or an instant offer site that is somehow layered, and you can actually connect the two from an SEO perspective as well. In a perfect world, if you've got the budget, I would say go custom, fully focused custom with seller focused above the fold, but give a purchase, a browse opportunity with an MLS browsing tool. Okay, how to run super fast. Great questions. These guys crack me up. They're done in Texas, and they started less than 6 months ago. I think they've got 6 new transactions. Their business is up 40% in the last 6 months just from this. No other changes, right? All we did, streamline the website, turn on a little AI-driven SEO, and the leads and transactions are flowing in. Okay, so hats off to you guys, Sydney and team. And then this is you, Brian. We're not going to name names. Okay, but there was a site that you had at one point in time that was failing, and we knew it was failing, and we needed to get something better. So we had an intermediary solution, and then the final solution was us down here. And guys, if you want to just pull this site up, it's searchnwa.com. It's a gorgeous site. I freaking love the hero image. Kind of a light, elegant feel, ethereal. We wanted to do that on purpose, right? And so now he's got a site that performs extremely well, right? It's well within parameters for Google's Core Web Vitals update. The SEO is working, rankings are increasing, and organic traffic is up. It's an investment strategy over time. I know you love paid leads, Brian, but I'm going to force you to not ever have any again.
And that's the goal, David. At some point in time, I would like to get the point where I can reduce. I'm not going to tell you what my budget is because the audience would probably lose their mind. But my point is, if I could get away from having as many paid leads, then basically that's just direct money to the bottom line. I mean, a P&L has two parts, right? There's the P and there's the L. And I want to lower my L and increase my P. And because of that, I'm looking at long term. And again, I didn't hire Cast Services with the expectation that 3 months later I was never going to have to buy a lead again. That's not realistic. And I'm going to answer a question with that in mind. Do you guys do PPC and social media? The answer is yes. David's team runs all of my PPC leads. Well, that's not true. They run a big portion of my PPC leads, and then I actually I have another company that does it as well. That's Ylopo. For those of you guys who are doing that, that's what makes sense there. But yes, they absolutely do, and it kind of goes together, right? So we built this really super fast website, and they built it. I didn't, and then we run PPC there, so it goes well together, and it really works in tandem.
Well, and you're such a data nerd that you've got your finger on the pulse of where your conversion rates and CPLs are. So we can change those dials every single month as we need it. Like, that's the kind of business intelligence I would hope everybody watching this webinar has. You know exactly where your numbers are and where you need to pivot for maximum ROI. And it's a moving target, right? Okay, so this is you. And then what we're going to do is we're going to motor through a few of these slides. We really need to talk about the design of a website. And we came to this conclusion after we had a client that came to us and said, hey, listen, I get like 3 to 4 organic leads per month. They're the best in the business. They blow Zillow leads out of the water because they found me on their own search behavior, right? And they're ready to do a deal. How do I get more of those? Well, we took his site. It was 100% buyer focused, browse MLS in, burned it to the ground, rebuilt it, made it super fast, 100% seller focused. We did not even give somebody the capability to browse homes. Lead flow increased over 400% in 72 hours, and he now gets between 40 and 46 organic leads per month, right? Like, yeah. And so I want you guys, I'm not trying to push anything on you. I'm just, think about it. Take a step back and think, if I were a seller, am I giving somebody the storefront that is required to convert that search behavior into a lead? More than likely, if you're using a canned site, the answer is no, okay? And so there are other options out there. We're more than happy to help. Now for the juice. So we have clients today that spend about 10 grand a month. We have some that spend way more than that. And we see an ROI figure of 3 to 1 to 5 to 1 on a regular basis. Okay. I've showed you a bunch of the results, the organic traffic. These guys, Glenn is his name. They're currently 6 to 1 ROI in the first 120 days. I am more than happy to connect any people that I'm referencing here with anybody that wants to talk to them within reason. Okay. I'm not going to give out their cell phone number, but if you'd like to talk to some of these people, we're more than happy to do that. And then I just wanted to drop this nugget here as well. It's the technology works so well that we're using it outside of real estate, right? So I've got a nonprofit here in Colorado, and I've catapulted them past every single government and state search result on the internet in the first 6 months. And so it really helps Brian, that's a Good Business Colorado, if you ever want to look them up. Great organization. Nice. Yeah. So we already talked about buyer versus seller focus. I know we've got a cut here in about 10 minutes. So really what I want to do is open it up to talk about questions you should be asking, show you some next steps, and then just have a conversation. Answer all the Q&As because I see some others packing up here that are open. Does that work for you?
Works for me.
Sweet. So guys, when we talk seller versus buyer focus, now this is taking a little bit of a step outside of the SEO space, but it's still tangent and it's still important. Okay, so what I said earlier, 30 different websites, 30 different markets with varying team sizes. And we saw conclusively with our data science PhDs that looked at this data, we actually had to do the experiment a couple of times to make sure we were doing it correctly, those sites converted about 460% better than 100% buyer-focused sites. And the reason for that is the consumer behavior that we talked about. People have been conditioned to go to the big box players when they want to browse homes. unless they're already in your database, well, if that's the case, why are you engaging them anyway, right? You should be, dripping on them and calling them, all that kind of stuff. We're not as concerned about that organic conversion. Okay. So there's some real data behind this. We're going to be sharing this white paper with the LabCoatAgents group, either later this year or Q1 of next year. So you can just read it on your own. It's a really beautiful paper, and we're continuing to do these every quarter. So if you have questions, LabCoatAgents, Brian, if you have questions, bring them to us, and we will allocate our own resources to get the answer for you, because that also drives our products and services and technology that we bring to the market. Okay.
Here's a great question as it comes out. So this isn't the exact question, but the person basically said, hey, might be a little bit steep for me. So realistically, to get a significant increase over time, and again, this is over time, this isn't going to be month one, I got 150 brand new willing and able buyers. That's not what we're suggesting. But what's a starting point that's reasonable? Because you're going to have to take, everyone has X number of marketing dollars, whatever X is. Sometimes that's 500, sometimes that's 5,000, but what's a reasonable number that you can get people started at that they can start to see some benefit?
Yeah, definitely. And that's a great question. So our packages start at a $2,500 a month price point and go up from there. But we're waiving our $1,500 setup fee for everybody in LabCoatAgents, right? We normally charge that, and it takes, a 7 to 10 day period. You can just come in totally for free. And then instead of doing like a year or 2 year contract, we do 6 months and then go month to month. We have one of the highest retention rates of any digital services firm in the United States. So, and the reason for that is we've got a large team of trained professionals here in the States to take really, really good care of you. Okay. So, but listen, if it's a situation where, that's steep, I get it. If you're a single agent, that's probably unattainable right now. That doesn't mean you can't have a conversation to understand how to better tool your website to convert more leads, how to get more reviews based off of the book that we're writing right now on feedback cultivation in the real estate space, how to diagnose your GBL Google Business Listing, to dial all that stuff in. And as you start to grow, and you do have the budget for that, you have the capability to turn SEO on, right? But you've got to start somewhere, because your competition is running just as hard as you are to pass you up and grab that lead before you can. Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool. So questions you should just ask yourself about your website. Does your website have a clickable phone number above the fold? What I mean above the fold is what loads on the site prior to you having to scroll, mobile or desktop. For most canned CRM sites, the answer is no, right? And that's a statement of credibility piece and has a direct correlation to conversion rate from organic traffic to lead. There's irrefutable evidence there. Does your website load in under 5 seconds on mobile? Is it under 2.5 seconds for LCP? Okay. Do you have some sort of lead registration form above the fold? If they just want to give you their information, name, email, phone number, be done with it, are you making them go to a contact page and then go to a second page with 7 different fields where you have to fill out a message? They're gone. People in today's market, they want the easy button. Give it to them. Okay. And then do you have an actual UVP, a unique value proposition, or a call to action above the fold? Browse MLS in, search for homes in. That is not a value proposition. Okay. That is unique to any other real estate agent, right? That's essentially what every real estate agent in the entire world can do. How many transactions have you closed? How long have you been in real estate? What's your average price point over normal, asking? How much have you spent on marketing? What awards have you won? These are all things that you can get on your website if you would like. A/B test it, okay? And then again, buyer focus or seller focus. Just think about it. A/B test it. If you need some help, you can reach out to us. Okay. Next steps, take a minute. It's a lot of information, okay? So you can pause it, you can reach out to us. But really, I just want you to consider search engine optimization as another arrow in your quiver in the digital marketing suite. So you don't have to always rely on only paid leads that are incredibly volatile and typically convert at a lower level, okay? So how to reach us. We've got this beautiful page that we built just for you. So cast.services/LCA-webinar. I'm going to drop this in the chat.
Perfect.
And then you can drop this into the open. Okay, I'm actually going to send this to you, Brian. Also, if you want to do a little QR code with your phone, you can just zap that right there. And then Derek at cast.services, you can send him a direct email. He's our director of client success. We brought on specifically for this and other efforts. Okay.
So David, just a quick repeat on that. So what are you, because obviously by doing this, we're going to track, who comes from where. So what's the benefit of going through this link versus just reaching out? So what is LabCoats helping us with? So
So Lab Coats is helping us with, if you want to go to essentially a lead form and put in stuff about your market, what a comfortable budget is, all that stuff for you, we can essentially put you to the top of the list, and we'll reach out to you as quickly as humanly possible so that we can start that conversation. If you have more general questions or say, hey, I'm just interested, you can just hammer out an email to derek@cast.services. Okay, again, we're waiving all setup fees for anybody that comes through LCA. And then we're going to give away 10 free web audits. All right. If you want a web audit, all you have to do is email derek@cast.services and say, give me a web audit. And we'll get you in the queue, and it will render a 25-page, sometimes 27-page PDF document assessing your digital presence, traffic, keywords, reviews, and then doing the same for a couple of your competitors. And we will personally present that information to you to give you a roadmap for success.
Right, so I'll read this. Makes sense. I would love to optimize my site. Jake Davis, who you wrote that in there, feel free to reach out to Derek. I think that would be the best way to set that up. And then I'm going to answer this question because it's an interesting thing. As David was building, or David's team, David didn't directly build my website. As David's team built my website, if we already have set up through Ylopo, I still use Ylopo. Ylopo is a great company. However, we did have them tweak my website because some of the stuff, if you go back to a couple of slides back, it did not do the things that David was talking about to get the most traffic. So if you go down to, yes, it didn't do some of this stuff, for lack of a better way to put it. And so, yes, I paid Cast Services to tweak my site so that it met those things. And then we ended up driving traffic there, and we find a higher conversion rate. And again, huge proponent of Ylopo. I'm one of their original 20 clients, so I have nothing bad to say about them as a company. But just like every other big box, you need a little tweak that's going to be maybe a little bit more specific to your market, and just some things that make sense based on what your goals are. So, my goals are different than somebody else's. So looks like the Cast Services LCA link isn't opening. So, I always laugh at this. The better a tech company is, the worse something like this works. It just seems to happen inevitably. It's one of the reasons that I don't use technology during listing appointments, because I talk about how techie I am, and I don't want it to break right the second I say that. So, David, I'm not sure what we need to do to fix that, but we'll work on getting that fixed. Let me see.
It's right here. So it's just cast.services/LCA.webinar. I'm on it right now. If you hammer your personal information, and if you click this,
it's working. I clicked on it as well. So if you click on it, it will come up. I'm not sure. Tech is tech. There's it works fabulous when it works, and the rest of the time you look like an idiot. Right? That's kind of been my experience, because it's because you put a .LCA webinar instead of /. Okay. So yeah, we'll just put that in there again. It is Cast. I'm going to type it in as we speak. Cast.services /LCA dash webinar. So that should work, and that will go to everybody. So we'll all have that, all panels and attendees. There you go. That should work. Cast.services /LCA webinar. All right. So do we have any other questions? Sandra, do we have any on the website that we've got going on? I want to make sure that we get everybody's question answered. We have approximately 2 minutes left. So if anybody has anything, David and I can talk for 2 minutes. That's not the issue. The question is, but we would love to answer any questions anybody else has.
Come on, what do you got? 60 seconds. All right. Wait, if we already have a website through Ylopo, can you come? Yeah, okay, you already did that. Perfect. Great job. Brian, if there's other people that have other questions, I will be engaging in LabCoatAgents, and when you guys post this up, and I will also try and respond to any kind of comments that come through YouTube, et cetera, okay?
Absolutely. And guys, again, watch this replay on Facebook, put questions in there. David will monitor that and help you for sure. And I'll say this, you guys are offering consultations. So I was like, absolutely not. I'm not going to spend money on SEO. And you know what? Maybe you're not at the point where you want to spend $2,500 a month, and that's okay too. But take the opportunity, because there's so many little tweaks that you can do to get some return on investment that don't necessarily cost you a lot of money. But these guys are great at helping with that. And, again, they run my PPC, and that's been very successful too. So great company to work with, simple to use. And I would definitely say it's worth your time to reach out. So David, any final thoughts before we close up?
No, thank you so much for having me. We'll do another one of these again if we get some good traction and feedback from the group, but please get engaged. We're all about the freebies. We will help you. We will help you. Okay. Just ask the question.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. I'm Brian Curtis here with Creative Coaching and Consulting and LabCoatAgents. I appreciate everybody being on the webinar today. Again, feel free to go to our YouTube channel and watch this. And we look forward to bringing you some more great content later on in the week. David, really appreciate you being here today.
Thanks, man. Take care. Bye, guys.